Hey, it's American Oak Juice here. It's a rainy day outside. Gonna do a quick painting. Now, if you've watched any of my videos before, you know I like to do acrylic pour type paintings. They're not necessarily straight up acrylic pours because I like to create things out of them. Usually it's some kind of ghoulish monster or something like that, but sometimes I do some just kind of abstract paintings, but most of the time it ends up being something kind of creepy. Layer, and believe it or not, I gave away most of my paintings already. One of my kids had a bunch of their friends down and they really enjoyed my paintings, so I gave most of them away. I've just started collecting them again. I use the cheap stuff. There's no sense in spending a lot of money on a lot of paint that is expensive because you're going to be mixing it with Floetrol. Now I mix about a little less than half Floetrol to my paint, so there's no sense in buying expensive paint if you're going to mix it with Floetrol. Now my high-tech setup over here is some cooking racks. Alright, and I've got my little bucket of tools. This little gem right here is my favorite. It's my palette knife, and you'll see me use that for most of my videos. I don't do a lot of brush work. I always have you a nice roll of paper towels. Get you a nice stack of cups. This stuff here I use, it's called Cell Magic. And it does not take very much of this. If you get crazy with this, you're going to have a kind of a slick, shiny painting that's going to take a long time for that to dry off. So let me get some paints mixed up and we'll get after it. Alrighty, folks. Let me get this fan off so you can hear me a little better. So what we're going to do today is a little 8x10. It's just going to be a quick one, just to kind of demonstrate what's going through my head and to try to not make this video too long. I like kind of the Bob Rossi wet on wet action. Really helps me bring out what I want to bring out in these paintings. You can get a lot of detail in it too. So here we go. First thing I like to do is a lot of my paintings I use black as the background, and so I lay my base coat of black down, and then I get one of these big old, you can call it a scraping knife or whatever you want to call it, but I like to just get a nice smooth coat of my base color. Even if it's going to be white, I'll lay down a base coat of white, even on a white canvas, because you want that nice base coat for these paints to play around on. Because if you don't have that, they don't do what I want them to do. So then, let's see here. We'll go around the edges. I just make sure the whole canvas is covered and nice and smooth. All right, smoothing it out a little bit is all I'm doing. It doesn't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter at all. It kind of gives it more character if it's not, but to each their own. Some folks get a little obsessive about it, making sure everything is perfect. I am not one of those people. I just like to pour the paint, see what I see, and then we go from there. I really don't have a plan laid out. We're just going to pick some colors out, throw it down, and then we're going to see what pops out at us. So So today, like I said, this is going to be a pretty simple one. So in these bottles, I have my Floetrol and my paint already mixed. And these little ketchup bottles are perfect for this. Oh, almost forgot. Throw a little Cell Magic in there, and it just takes a few drops. And I like to put just a couple drops around the outside of the cup, and that just kind of helps it pour out. So we're going to throw some gray, and this is just an 8x10, so it doesn't take a whole lot of this. And we're going to throw some white. And we're going to throw a little bit of black. And just for good measure, a little bit more white. Now, I'll tell you one thing. The red and the white really like to mix with each other and make pink. So you see a lot of pink in my paintings. It's not really intentional. So I'm putting a little red in there just for character. I'll take a popsicle stick, and mind you, I don't know what it is. I hate the feeling of popsicle sticks. So just know that my skin is crawling every time I touch one of these. We'll give it a slight mix. You don't want to get crazy with it. And here we go. So I always kind of start with a circle, and really I'm looking for a face. If you follow my artwork at all, you know that I love drawing portraits, especially grizzly, monster-y type of creatures. So I'm definitely feeling some kind of a zombie vibe off of this one. And like I said, you can see the red and the white are mixing, but that's okay. So now we got to kind of pick out what we're going to do with this. Let's just look at it for a second here. All right. So I'm throwing in some base colors just to kind of get me started, kind of know what I'm wanting to do here. All right. We better put a little right here. And the best part about this is if you don't like it, you can just pour right over the top of it, make something else. Now these base colors that I'm putting in are kind of what I'm going to use, and you'll see with my palette knife to start shaping in this detail, and it helps me to bring out the lines that I'm trying to achieve here. I know it kind of stresses my wife out to watch me do these because it's like I never stop. I just keep adding and adding. But it's just like I keep seeing something else happen. Alright. So this guy, it's going to look better if we do kind of a no-nose type zombie guy. So all I'm doing is I'm dragging this palette knife sharp ways through this paint. And that's what creates my lines. and you can drag it right out through all the rest of it, and it will bring out some highlights, do some dark details. Right. And you don't have to worry about being some kind of a super artist or anything. And it doesn't have to be some kind of a grisly painting like this. You just see what you see. If you see a flower, paint a flower. If you see a butterfly, paint a butterfly. I've done a few of those myself. And like I said, this is going to be kind of a fairly quick one. I've actually got to go to work here in just a little bit. So we'll get this done. We'll throw in some details. And then we'll call it good. I won't get too crazy with this one, but we will do some things with it. I'll kind of show you how I make my eyes. I really like making the eyes pop out of these. And like I said, if you screw it up to the point where you just really don't like it anymore, just paint over the top of it. Now here's another technique, and anybody that does acrylic pours, you already know this, but you can do what's called a swipe. And since I'm going to swipe this part of the forehead here, I have a little extra paint. So it's a swipe is just, you're just lightly going to swipe. And then you let the colors separate themselves back out. Now even when I do a swipe like this, the reason I'm kind of doing this is because I'm kind of thinking like his brain's a little exposed maybe. You know, like I said, you don't have to do morbid pictures like this, but it's kind of my thing. So to get what I want to happen there, we're going to put a little gray, and then we're going to put a little red that isn't mixed. And the reason we're doing that is so that it doesn't look pink. Right. Bigger knife, here we go. And you can see how those colors just start settling back down. I probably will go back and put some white on top of this, and then a little black for some shading. Throw a little black around the border, just a little. Doesn't have to be a bunch, because as you can see, the other thing is that as you do these, the paint is spreading and spreading. So it's getting bigger and bigger as you do it. So you got to kind of keep that in mind when you start one of these. It is not going to be the same size as when you started. said, it's going to be a little bit more white here just to kind of highlight this. We may even do some more red. All right. So that little cavity there is not exactly working the way I want it to, so I'm going to throw this at it. All I've done is mixed a little red and a little black. I'm giving it a pretty good little stir. I'm actually going to just pour some of that in just to give it a little bit more depth. Now remember, every time you pour more paint, your painting stretches out a little bit further, so just something to remember. All right, now we're looking a little better. I'm going to put a few little red highlights here and there. And just a little bit of touch up. Sometimes you can just do the pour and you don't have to do much with your palette knife. You can just let it settle and it usually comes out pretty good. It's just all up to you. So now my guy needs some eyes, and it's very important that your painting stays level, because if it doesn't, it will all run to one side and screw the whole thing up. So for the eyes, I like to start with some white. We're going to throw some red right in the middle of the white. And then we're going to throw some black right in the middle of the red. And we end up with these big screwed up looking eyes. So while the eyes are kind of settling in, we'll go ahead and put some teeth in. Those teeth, just a little bit of character. If you get crazy with your palette knife on these teeth, you can mess it up pretty fast. So just be really gentle. You're just kind of moving the paint around a little bit. Now, right here, I kind of want his mouth to be separated up a little bit like this. bit more under the eyes. Watch your paint drips, because that paint will drip right when you don't want it to. I don't know if you saw my video with the whole top of this came off, but that sucked. I had to recover from that. But again, we made it work. So we're going to cut a little bit over here. Again, these are it's just a little bit of pop, a little bit of character. I guess he would have an ear somewhere over there if it was still available to him. Now we're going to go ahead and put that nose hole in. All right. So we're going to make that a little bit sharp and a little bit jagged. I'm going to bring this down. Again, just some slight detailing, nothing crazy. Just a little bit up here. See that blackness there is nice and full, kind of the way I want it, so I'm not going to mess with it a lot. And down here, we're actually going to kind of bleed these together a little bit. All right. Let's see. Right there. Get kind of underneath. And a little bit of this. All right. I'm going to add to the chin just a touch. And I'm just going to bring in this other paint from his neck to just kind of blend that in so that it's not just a big glob of white paint. And there we go. And if you're an artist and you're seeing things in this and you're screaming at the screen for me to stop or do this or do that, just put it in the comments. We'll all learn this together. I'm by no means an expert. I'm just showing you what I like to do. You may have some technique that would really help me out. And I would very much appreciate it if you would share that with me. So up here, this whole mess up here is kind of bothering me a little bit. So we're going to add just a few little touches to this. Okay. Now for the last thing that I like to do, and let's shape these eyes just a little bit. As you can see, my stand isn't perfectly level the way I like it. That's because I cleaned up in here today. And I think I got my stand a little off keel here, but that's okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can see how the paint's kind of sliding this way, so I'll probably actually spin this thing when we get finished here. So I like to put the reflection in the eyes, just for a little bit more pop. Since this is a black and white pretty much, We're going to sign this thing with white paint. And I don't ever really have a specific place I like to sign, but I just look for a big open spot. Man, about ran out of room to sign it. All right. So there you go, guys. And as you can see, he's running off the side of my canvas here. But that's perfectly okay. That's just fine. That's what acrylic pour does. You really never know where it's going to end up. You can plan it out all you want to. You can try to make your colors flow exactly like you want them to. But they're probably not. They're going to do what they're going to do. And you got to learn to just kind of be happy with that. Don't get too freaked out if it doesn't flow exactly like you want it to, because that's just the nature of the beast when you're doing this. He is definitely flowing off my canvas. So we'll give him a little spin. Sorry about bumping the camera like that. We'll spin him this way so the paint will kind of settle back that way. And after this dries for a few hours, I'll take a picture of it, put it up on DeviantArt. We can all talk about it. But anyway, that's a quick little gruesome zombie picture. Just kind of wanted to go over my techniques, make a fast one. Just kind of talk about what I do, what I worry about, what I don't worry about on these. And you could literally, if you're obsessive, the best part is if you're kind of one of those obsessive artists, you can play with this for hours and hours, because it will take a long time for this to dry. I'm not really the type that you know, messes with these for a long time. I can tell, you know, like when I'm done, I'm done. And so these few last little touch-ups I'm doing right now, it'll be the end of it, because I'll walk away here in a second and we'll call it done. But if you so choose, you have hours of playtime with these. And sometimes when you spin it upside down like this, that's when you notice a few little things that you could do. So we're just going to put a few little touch-ups in here. Kind of give it some depth. You don't have to get crazy. I just wanted to put a few little suggestions of some flesh. Anyway, that's it. I'm done. Leaving it alone. We'll give this a name. We'll let it dry. I'll get it up on DeviantArt. Hope you enjoyed it. Till the next video. Oji-san out.